How's it going, everybody? This is AfroDJMac. I'm going to talk to you today about sidechaining. Basically, sidechaining is a technique used to affect one audio signal with the level of another audio signal. So, for example, if we were both listening to our iPods, when my iPod gets to a certain loudness level, I'll turn it down. And then when it drops back below, I turn it back up. You would do the same for your iPod. Now, if we were sidechained together, when my iPod reaches that sound level, I would turn down your iPod. And then when it drops back below, I'd turn your iPod back up. This way, the volume of my iPod is affecting the volume of your iPod. So it helps things work together. Most common example is probably just simple ducking used in radio broadcasting. I'm going to show you a little example here. I'm going to play just some music I made for the sake of this demonstration. And yeah, let's start. So right now, I have all these audio tracks grouped up, and on this group, I have a compressor. And it's sidechained to this microphone input right over here. This is where my mic is going, my voice is coming out. So every time I talk, you can see that I'm reducing the level of the overall music, and this allows you to hear me speak. This is used in television commercials, radio commercials, when you want to hear the announcer. All the background music ducks out of the way, so you can hear what the person is saying. Now, if I turn this off, it's going to be really hard to hear what I'm talking about. Without this, I get kind of drowned out by the music. Turn it on, and now you can hear me again. So this is a really popular technique, probably where this all originated from. Now, as time went on, producers wanted to have heavy kick drums, but they also wanted heavy bass, and now these two things kind of occupy the same frequency range. So what they've done is they've started sidechaining the bass to the kick drum. So right now I'm going to just play my little drum beat here. Okay. And I'm going to put on my bass. First I'm going to turn off my little sidechain compressor here. Play my bass. That's pretty heavy, thick bass. And there's a lot of competition between the drums and the bass, the kick drum especially. So when I turn on this compressor, you can hear the bass ducks out of the way for the kick drum. The way I did this is I just, the compressor starts like this. I click this little button. Here's the sidechain option. And then you go decide where you want the audio to come from. In this case, I wanted the drums. And then from there, I can actually choose which drum. And I wanted the kick drum, so I pick that one right here. Now the bass is moving with the drums. Just give you a little variation so you can hear. Everything's punchy now. The bass is punchy, the kick drum's punchy. I'll turn it off and you'll hear the difference. Back on. Things are kind of working and moving together. And you can, play around with how drastic you want this to be by changing the threshold or the ratio. For the sake of this example, I've done things kind of on an extreme level. So let's stop these guys right here. I'm going to show you another thing you can do. It doesn't just have to be with the bass. It could be with any instrument, really. So I will start a kick. And I got this track here called the stutter track. Let me play you that first without any drums. Okay. This thing just kind of comes in here. I'll add my drums. And you're going to see on this compressor, you can see I'm losing, that stutter sound drops with the kick. I'm sorry, with the snare. Makes room for the snare. You can do that with whatever you want. I have another track with just some noises on it. Right over here. And this one is just moving with the sound of the drums as a whole. Sidechain. Drum selector. and it's just on the entire kit. And that's ducking out of the way with the drums. Okay. Stop this real quick here. So another thing you can do is you can take something like your drums, right? And we got a send here. And on this send is a really heavy reverb. Now everything's sort of getting drowned out with the drums. So what I've done is put a compressor at the end, turn this on, and this compressor is sidechained to the drum signal. So now, every time the drums hit, it's ducking this reverb level, dropping it in volume, and it allows us to hear the clarity of the drums, but still that big, huge reverb. And again, I have a pretty extreme setting going on here, mostly so you could hear. I'll turn it off. And turn it back on. Okay. Just slow that down. Now, another thing I have, and you can do this, this is especially useful on vocals. So on this other send, I have a ping pong delay and a compressor. So let's just hear what the ping pong delay sounds on the voice. Hello. Hello. Lots of delay. It's sort of confusing with the vocals that you're trying to hear. However, what we've done is put a compressor at the end, turn it on, sidechain that to the microphone input. Now listen to what happens to that delay. Hello. Hello. It's much easier to hear what I'm saying now because when I speak, the compressor is ducking the level of the delay. I'll turn it off again, and you'll notice it's hard to hear me. It's a little bit harder to hear what I'm saying with all this delay going on. However, the compressor cleans things up very nicely for us. Okay. Great technique. I use this quite a bit on my vocal tracks live. It really adds a lot of clarity. So let's see. Next thing I want to show you is sidechaining a gate. And I have this one sound called the Space China. And it's got a compressor, a gate, which opens and closes at a certain threshold. However, instead of listening to the actual synth here, the Space China synth, let me turn this off so you can just hear what I have. Take out the drums so you're just hearing this one instrument. Okay? Now I have a percussion track over here. I've sidechained this gate to that percussion track, and now listen to what happens. Whenever this particular track reaches a certain level, let me just drop off this delay. It makes the Space China thing open up. Okay? Now what I can do is I can actually mute that track and just use it to trigger the gate. And that gives us this Space China thing opening. Now, say I want to put a little delay on this percussion, right? Makes it a little more busy. I have this set to pre-FX in here. Now you can do post-FX, post-mixer. Now if I do post-FX, it's going to trigger with all those different delay sounds, which you might like. It might be cool. But I'm going to set it to pre so that it only hits with the original sounds of that percussion. These ones you can hear now. So this is a great way to give like some sort of, like, you know, before we had this gate on, this is just like a sustaining crazy pad sort of sound. I don't even know what you call that. But now with this, and we activate our percussion, it only comes through when the percussion hits. And you can even turn off the percussion so that you can just use that to trigger this particular synth. Pretty cool. way to trigger sounds, give your music some movement. Okay. All right, so let me show you one more thing here. This is a sidechain filter. So I have this Nintendo sound, which I'm gonna let you hear. We're gonna turn off our sidechain, our filter altogether. This is what it sounds like. Now I turn on my filter, take off that sidechain. Okay, it's pretty nice. But what I've done is sidechain this to the drums. Okay, the snare drum actually. So now when I play the drums, you're gonna hear that filter move with the snare drum, kind of like a wah-wah. So what that is doing is telling this filter to move up every time the snare hits. And we could do it the opposite. You can make it go the other way. Or back there. So basically every time that snare drum hits, this filter moves. And you can, of course, it doesn't have to be a snare drum. It could be anything. It could be the vocals, whatever you like. Feel free to get really creative with that. So that's about it, really. Sidechaining is a really great way to keep things moving together. It helps, gives your music some kind of, like it's working together. It makes it move around. And you'll hear very extreme settings that will really drastically do things. And then you can go a little more subtle and make things a little, just keep things moving together. So that's about it. I just want to let you know that a lot of these sounds here that you're hearing are some of these free Ableton live racks that I give out every week. So if you're interested in those, come down to AfroDJMac.com, check them out. They're free downloads. I release one every week, and they're yours to have a lot of fun with. Thanks a lot for checking this out, and I'll be back soon with another bit of information to share with you. Thank you.